Over the centuries, House Targaryen has produced both great men and monsters. Prince Daemon was both. In his day, there was not a man so admired, so beloved, and so reviled in all Westeros. He was made of light and darkness in equal parts. To some, he was a hero. To others, the blackest of villains. Those are 3 of the first 5 sentences of a novella about Daemon called The Rogue Prince, so George R.R. Martin presumably chose those words carefully. A Redditor named Zahahaha posted that on Reddit so as to start a conversation asking who else is both loved and hated. Immediately, one person came to mind. I will get to that person, but first, let's talk about 2 other people. The Redditor named Zahahaha mentioned Jaime Lannister, claiming that he was hated by many but also very admired in the Westerlands. Let's break that down. According to Tyrion, Jaime was the type of man whom other men liked to follow. Men would even die for Jaime if need be, so that backs up the OP. When he was a prisoner, Jaime told Catelyn how he thought it passing on that he was loved by one for a kindness he hadn't done and reviled by so many for his finest act. Jaime was hated by some, such as Lord Eddard, for killing the Mad King, and in terms of a lie that he was loved for, check out the link above. So Jaime is a good answer, but I don't think he is the best answer. It arguably can be made that Sir Duncan the Tall is both loved and hated. On the one hand, Dunk is an awesome human, and most people who meet him see that. However, there's always at least one guy in every town who hates Dunk, often due to envy. An even stronger argument for Dunk being both loved and hated by the masses is that he proved himself a selfless hero many times over. But Baelor Breakspear died fighting for Dunk at his trial of 7. As a reminder, Baelor Breakspear was the heart of chivalry and the soul of wisdom. He served his father most ably his hand, and few could doubt that Baelor Breakspear would be a great king. And then he died. For Dunk. Since Baelor was so beloved, some people hated Dunk, blaming him for Baelor's death. Afterwards, Dunk traveled around the realm with a young prince named Egg. Eventually, Egg would become known as King Aegon V, or King Aegon the Unlikely, since he was the 4th son of a 4th son. Dunk became the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, and he ended a rebellion by defeating Sir Lionel Baratheon in single combat. He was also a hero at an event known as the Tragedy of Summerhall. So Dunk is an interesting answer for this topic, but I don't think he is the best answer. Before we get to that, let's do 2 quick shoutouts. Jon Snow was both loved and hated by the Night's Watch, primarily due to the fact that he let the free folk pass through the wall. Meanwhile, Daenerys Stormborn became a breaker of chains, and as a result, she was revered by many, but hated by many as well. Those 2 certainly fit the bill. Even Rhaegar himself fits the bill. But I still believe there is an even better answer. Who is the most loved and hated character in this story? Daemon Waters, also known as Daemon Blackfyre. Daemon was born in 170 AC, which is around 40 years after the Dance of the Dragons. Daemon's mother was Dana the Defiant, and his father was her cousin, King Aegon IV. But here's the problem. They were not married, so Daemon was a bastard. That is why his original name was Daemon Waters. Supposedly, Daemon had been the wonder and the terror of his age, and in later days, that was seen as a warning of what the boy would become. Daemon was raised at the Red Keep and was given the instruction of the wisest maesters and the best masters at arms at court, including Sir Quentin Ball, the fiery knight called Fireball. Daemon loved nothing better than deeds of arms and excelled at them, and many saw in him a warrior who would one day be another dragon knight. King Aegon knighted Daemon in his 12th year when he won a squire's tourney, thereby making him the youngest knight ever made in the time of the Targaryens, surpassing Maegor I. King Aegon also shocked the court king and council by bestowing upon Daemon the sword of Aegon the Conqueror, Blackfyre, as well as lands and honors. Daemon took the name Daemon Blackfyre thereafter. Before King Aegon IV died, he set out his will, and in it, he left the bitterest poison the realm ever knew. He legitimized all of his natural children, from the most baseborn to the great bastards, who were the sons and daughters born to him by women of noble birth. Scores of his natural children had never been acknowledged, so Aegon's dying declaration meant naught to them, but for his acknowledged bastards, it meant a great deal. And for the realm, it meant blood and fire for 5 generations. When King Aegon IV died, his son Daeron was raised to king, King Daeron II Targaryen. Unfortunately, his half-brother Daemon Blackfyre declared war, the First Blackfyre Rebellion. Daemon Blackfyre created a new sigil. Instead of the standard red dragon on a black field, Daemon reversed the colors to a black dragon on a red field, earning him the nickname the Black Dragon. Some people, such as his half-brother Bloodraven, hated Daemon Blackfyre, but another one of his half-brothers, Bittersteel, was a loyal ally. The same goes for the realm. Half of the realm was for the red dragon, and half was for the black. The rebellion ended at the Red Grass Field, nigh on a year later. Daemon and his eldest sons, Aegon and Aemon, were brought down beneath the withering fall of arrows sent by Bloodraven and his private guards, the Raven's Teeth. In the aftermath, King Daemon showed a sternness that few expected. Many lords and knights who had supported the Black Dragon had lands and seats and privileges stripped from them and were forced to give over hostages. And here's where it gets interesting. Despite losing loved ones, land, and riches, many people continued to revere Daemon. In fact, there were 4 more Blackfyre rebellions. Between the first and second Blackfyre rebellions, Duncan Egg served a man named Sir Eustace Osgrey who had sided with Daemon Blackfyre during the first rebellion. All 3 of Eustace's sons died on the Red Grass Field. Then he had lands taken from him. His daughter was also taken to King's Landing as a hostage, and his wife was so broken by their losses that she killed herself. Yet, despite all that, Eustace was steadfast in his belief that Daemon Blackfyre should have been king. When Egg pointed out that King Daemon II was a good man and asked Sir Eustace why he had chosen to fight for Daemon Blackfyre, Sir Eustace's response was very telling. Daemon. Sir Eustace almost slurred the word, and Dunk realized he was half drunk. Daemon was spindly and round of shoulder, with a little belly that wobbled when he walked. Daemon stood straight and proud, and his stomach was flat and hard as an oaken shield. And he could fight. With axe or lance or flail, he was as good as any knight I ever saw. But with the sword, he was the warrior himself. When Prince Daemon had Blackfyre in his hand, there was not a man to equal him. Not Ulrich Dane with Dawn, no, nor even the Dragon Knight with Darksister. You can know a man by his friends, Egg. Daemon surrounded himself with maesters, septons, and singers. Always there were women whispering in his ear, and his court was full of Dornishmen. How not when he had taken a Dornish woman into his bed and sold his own sweet sister to the Prince of Dorne, though it was Daemon that she loved. Daemon bore the same name as the young dragon, but when his Dornish wife gave him a son, he named the child Baelor, after the feeblest king who ever sat the Iron Throne. Daemon, though. Daemon was no more pious than a king need be, and all the great knights of the realm gathered to him. It would suit Lord Bloodraven if their names were all forgotten, so he has forbidden us to sing of them. But I remember. Robb Rain, Garrett the Grey, Sir Aubrey Ambrose, Lord Gorman Peak, Black Byron Flowers, Red Tusk, Fireball, Bittersteel. I ask you, has there ever been such a noble company, such a roll of heroes? Why, lad, you ask me? Because Daemon was the better man.